Hi, it's Amy from the Ross Farm, and I'm here today for episode 3 of Sheep and Wool School. It's my little vlog slash podcast, whatever you want to call it, where we talk about all the crafty things I'm getting into and also some sheep breeds. So this will be our last week with our Cheviots, and then we start a new breed next month. So we'll talk about what we're going to do next month for our anything along and wrap up the Cheviots for this month. 1 month down, 11 more to go. So if you have a favorite sheep breed, make sure you drop it in the comments down below so I can put it on the list of things to do this year. So it's been a wild week. Yesterday was the Woolen Fiber Arts live sale, and that video will also be on the YouTube channel here. It happened over on our Facebook Live, and we talked about a bunch of our different yarns and the sheep that produce them and how they're different from each other. So if you want to pop over and check that out, that would be great as well. And I just couldn't put these two away. These are two of my very favorite right now, the ones I'm kind of obsessed with, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's get into it. So this week, I was working in the studio and I realized that one of our Huskies is very timid on the painted wood stairs. He has to get his courage up to go up or down them. And so I started thinking about getting a runner, a carpet runner, just to go down the stairs so that he could go up and down a little more safely, a little less cautiously, a little less anxiety producing for him. So I hopped out to a local store and I went in and they had a really, really beautiful woven rug that they could special order as a runner. And I started looking at it and I just absolutely loved it. And it was 100% wool and it was woven here in the US, and they would just have to call and have it woven as a runner instead of a full width rug. And so, of course, you know me, I'm noodling along after I get home and I'm working down in the studio getting it reorganized. And I started thinking, I have wool and I have a loom and I could just weave my own runner. So then I started talking to my friend Linda and talking through yeah, you could, no, that didn't work, all of the things. So we are into the second step of weaving on a loom, which is imagining all the things you want to weave. So this particular rug happened to be natural wool with probably every fifth or sixth warp yarn being turquoise, which, matches CAFE, matches everything I do. And I started thinking, I have this, and I could take some of the white Leicester roving and just put a little bit of twist in it so it's like a super bulky, and weave with that, because I don't really want like a tightly woven structure. What I really want is something that's just going to felt under our feet from usage, so that it almost morphs from a woven runner into like a felted mat. So I'm still noodling around on it. If you have expertise in weaving rugs, especially on my kind of loom, please drop a comment down below. Give me your expertise. I think I know what's going to work, but I could be totally wrong. Again, I weave on a shacked baby woof, and so I've got much more width than I need. I just have to figure it out, but I think it's going to work. I think so. So that's where we are with the weaving project. We are in the imagining the things we could do phase, which is phase 2. of a probably 17 phase system. So on the wheel this week, we last week we got the Gotland off, and I have wet finished it. I didn't get a picture because it was still kind of damp and drizzly and not looking its best. So once I get it all skeined up and ready to go back to Angela, I will take a picture of it to drop in for next week. But while I was waiting on that to dry, I actually got out my Hansen e-spinner, mini spinner, and I thought I would start spinning some things on it because I hadn't used it in several years. And it really needed some love. I have been spinning primarily on my electric eel wheels, my EEW 6, a little on the Nano, but mostly on the 6, and the Daedalus. Once the Daedalus came, I spin on that more than anything. So I thought the Hansen needed a little love. I'd get it out. And I found out that sometime in all of the moves over the last 5 years, it has been damaged and I wasn't able to spin on it. The good news is I found out that Hansen has excellent customer service. It's important for me to tell you that because within a couple of hours of sending a contact form through the website, I had an email from them saying, oh yes, they remembered me purchasing my mini spinner, and here was a link to get the cherry tension knob that I have broken off my Cherry Classic or knocked out. Somehow it's gone. So that is on its way to me, and hopefully I will be able to fix that and get it put back together and be spinning on it by next week. But I was really impressed with the quick response time and how easy it was to get the part that I needed. Which reminds me, speaking of the EEW wheels, I just backed, well, a few days ago, backed the Kickstarter for Dreaming Robots electric eel wheel EEW Fold, which I'm super excited about because the only thing better than the flat pack bobbins and the 6 is a flat pack e-spinner. So the Fold will fold completely down, very compact, and rather than having to have a dedicated piece of luggage to take my e-spinner in when I'm teaching on the West Coast or up in Maine or down in Florida or wherever, Texas, God knows where I'll end up. This one will go into a much smaller case and go into my luggage with my other things. It won't have to have, like the Hansen traveled in its own carry-on. So this will all fold down flat and go in with everything else and not take up so much space. So I'm really excited about that. So EEW Fold is on Kickstarter right now. They exceeded their initial goal in, I think, 19 minutes. I want to say 19 minutes because I think the previous record was 20 minutes. And I think Maurice did this one in 19. So hop on over to Kickstarter and check that out. It's going to be amazing. I love the EEW wheels for their affordability and their portability. And they really work. So give it a shot. So on the needles, I'm still working on my test knit that is going to launch in March. All I can tell you is it is designed in my Ashen Wensleydale called Ashen. And this yarn is so shiny and so soft and just really amazing. It is 100% UK Wensleydale, grown in England by James Perry and his business partner, and then processed at the Natural Fiber Co. in England, which is the home of Blacker Yarns. And they just did such an amazing job. This yarn is dreamy, and I am so excited to be participating in this test knit. I've made it through the first section. I'm part of the way through the second section. Can't really tell you much about it, but this will be a booth sample in the booth for Nash Yarn Fest and will launch before Nash Yarn Fest does. So you'll be able to see it, and as I am allowed to release more details, I will tell you all about it. But the designer came into our booth at Rhinebeck last year and just loved this yarn and contacted me before Christmas and said that she had a design done in it. So I'm really excited about that. We've worked with her before. She's amazing. Also, if you are a knitwear designer and you would like to work in my yarn, please give me a call or a text or an email and let's get that working, because nothing makes me happier than seeing people enjoying my yarns. So that's what I'm working on now. But I have to tell you this funny story. So there is this knitting bag that ends up in every tote bag I take everywhere. Like I don't know how. If I get to some place and I didn't bring knitting and I'm frustrated and I stick my hand in my tote bag to like pull out the mail or whatever, just to have something to do that isn't screen time, this knitting bag is in the bottom of the bag somehow. It's in the bottom of my tote wherever I go, no matter which tote I take with me. So it needs to get finished. It's been on the needles for a few years, honestly. We'll be honest, a few years. So the last time I pulled it out, I realized I had lost the teeny tiny pattern that came with it. So I had to email through the website to get a copy of the pattern, because it is the microfiber ribbon scarf, wavy microfiber ribbon scarf. Anyways, by Tessa's Designer Yarns, and it was in my library on Ravelry, so I went to download it so I could look at it and figure out how many stitches go between the motifs. And it was actually a link that sent me to their website, and their website was being updated, so nothing was there, so I wasn't able to access the pattern, and I was very frustrated. So I sent I think I sent them a message on Instagram, because like nothing was working that day. And I heard back from her almost immediately saying, drop me an email at this email address and I will reply with the pattern. And within about a minute and a half, I had the pattern. Unfortunately, I had already screwed it up one repeat, and I'm going to have to tink back. But I just need to get this done, because it's been in this bag forever, and it's really pretty. So I'll try to pop a photo of that in for next week as well. So I'm planning a few new samples for the booth this spring, and these are the two yarns that are really talking to me right now. So this is our new Targhee base. This is the Targhee 2-ply, and I absolutely adore this beautiful deep purple. The color is called Aubergine, and Targhee is very soft and very squishy. I always like to say it's like merino without the drama, if that makes sense. It's got a longer staple length, so it's not constantly pilling. It's not constantly making holes. It's just delightful. So this is one of my very favorite things right now, and that I want to knit something out of. And then this is my very favorite skein of yarn right now. This is our Dorset Hike, and it is a 80% Dorset, 20% nylon, and it's a sport weight, so it's a little heavier than fingering, which is what I like. Here in Northeast Ohio, it was -10 a few days ago, so sport weight socks are fine. But I just absolutely love this color, and the color is called Gummy Worms, which is probably half the reason I love it. There's another colorway in Dorset Hike as well, called Rainbow Cliffs, and I love that one too. Actually, I love most all of the colorways in the Dorset Hike, so check that out on the website. And then this, of course, is the Ashen Wensleydale. So that's what I'm working with right now, on the needles, planning a few new samples, trying to finish up a couple of other things. So last week we talked about whether I would do any videos of techniques. And I had a couple of people say, oh, I love technique videos. I'd happily watch that. Not a whole lot of response, but I decided that this time I would, as soon as we get the home studio set up, I will do a technique video on how I bind my quilts, because I've gotten very, very good at the mitered corners. And I didn't invent this technique, but I think I've really mastered it. And if you're a quilter and you're struggling with your bindings, I think this could help you. It makes a very, very crisp bound corner, a crisp mitered bound corner. So hopefully that will be the first of a few technique videos I'm going to do. He's going to put up a photo right now of the quilt that I did the binding on this week. One of the quilts I did the binding on this week. But I think if you zoom in, you can see how very crisp the mitered corners are on the binding. And I'm kind of proud of that. So maybe that'll be our first technique video. So it's time for Sheep and Wool School. So this is the week that we wrap up our talk about the Cheviots. I'm hoping that you guys are participating in our anything along, and you are spinning or knitting or quilting or felting, probably not felting, or doing macrame, or whatever turns you on with Cheviot fiber, and experiencing it for yourself. If you are not, it is still available on our website. You can do it at any time. And if you're watching this at some point in the future, feel free to have your own Cheviot anything along and follow along with the videos, even though we're into a different month already. So our bullet points for this week are: the Cheviots are excellent mothers. I'm going to tell you a story in a minute about one of our Cheviots who was the greatest sheep I've ever owned. I have been in charge of our flock since 1991, and over the last 30 plus years, I have had probably in the neighborhood of 15 different sheep breeds, but I have always had Cheviots because they are just one of the best sheep breeds I've ever experienced. There are other breeds that have also stuck around, but the Cheviots have always been my favorite. They are Drew's favorite. I think there will probably always be Cheviots on our farm for these reasons. Cheviot sheep are excellent mothers. They will raise theirs. They will raise anybody's. They are born to take care of their own lambs. And with a lot of the rare breeds that we work with, oh, that's not a thing. We struggle with some of the breeds to get them to accept their lambs, to feed their lambs, to not stomp on their lambs. They just are not Cheviots. I've always said that the best way for me to raise rare breeds would be to implant embryos into my Cheviots and let the Cheviots birth and raise them, because then I could repopulate the world with rare breeds, because the Cheviots are just that reliable. The other thing I love about them is they have very versatile wool. It is hard wearing. It resists felting. The helical crimp that we talked about last week, it's good for everything except the wool bikini. I mean, some of them probably you could get a wool bikini out of it, but it's just a really good medium white wool. Super. It dyes beautifully. It takes on the color. It can be very saturated. It can be very pale. It doesn't matter. It really takes the dye beautifully. And we're getting ready to start dyeing some Cheviot bulky. So you'll be able to see the yarns dyed in the next couple of months as well. It's extremely hard wearing. This is my go-to for socks. This is why when we made our line of ready-to-wear socks, we used Cheviot, because I knew it would hold up and we wouldn't have complaints. It resists felting, it resists pilling. You can throw it in the washer and accidentally throw it in the dryer, and it's probably going to be just fine. Generally speaking, we're getting a less than 3% shrinkage rate on things that were accidentally tossed in the dryer. So it's just all around delightful. There's a reason I've had them for over 30 years. They're the best sheep. They're just the best sheep. And I'd put my Cheviots up against just about anything. So that being said, I have a little photo montage for you. And these are some of my favorite photos of our Cheviot sheep. The first one being one of our young Cheviots. They're just delightful. They have the most adorable little pokey rabbit ears that, I don't know, they just charm me. The second photo is going to be of a set of twin lambs. These are actually Itsy and Bitsy. They are Drew's original twins that he raised when he was just about 2 years old. And Itsy and Bitsy are a pair of lambs that grew up to be ewes that started his flock of Cheviots. So his flock and my flock, of course, have mixed over the last 30 years. But that was what got him started in Cheviot sheep, was his twins, Itsy and Bitsy. And we love them desperately. The third photo is a photo of our ram, Big Boy. And I think if you take a look at him, you can determine why we call him Big Boy. I think I mentioned before, he was the grand champion at, I want to say, either Nail or Ohio State Fair a couple of years ago. He's amazing. He has had a couple of health issues and come through with flying colors, where most of my other sheep would have just, well, they just would have given up and been gone. But he's much tougher than that. He actually had an issue with one of his knees, and the vet told us to put him down because he would never walk right again. And Drew did medication and physical therapy with him because he's really devoted to Big Boy, and Big Boy being the father of his Cheviot flock. And you would never know that he had a joint issue. He is just as sound and just as healthy as he was before he had his incident. So he's one of my favorites. Now, the next photo is a sheep who means a lot to me. Her name was 219. So the sheep that are born on our farm all get names, but the sheep that come in from other sources, a lot of their registrations just have the name of their flock and then their ear tag number. And she was 219. And so for some reason, we never got around to giving her a given name. We just always called her 219. And she lived with us until she was over 10, probably closer to 11. And when our sheep get elderly, we pull them out of the breeding program and put them into the retiree flock. And then they are kind of nanas to our last year's lambs as they grow up to become yearlings. But not 219. She was going through the fence, and she was going to go find our ram, which at that point was Bronte. And she was going to get herself pregnant. So she lambed twins up until the last year. And the last year, she had a beautiful set of twins. And when they were about 6 weeks old, we found her in the barn. She had passed away in the night of old age. And she still had her little lambs. They were big enough to be weaned at that point, but she still had her pair of lambs sleeping right there with her. And she was just the absolute best sheep I've ever had in my life. I always like to tell the story about the time that she abducted somebody else's lambs. One of my Leicester Longwolves had lambed and was not interested in parenting at that time. So 219 walked right over and took the lambs and was over in the corner cleaning them off, getting them up, getting them moving when I walked into the barn. And I said, 219, those aren't yours. And she's bad and stamped, and they were hers. Those are her lambs. And I said, 219, those are not your lambs. Those are obviously Leicester Longwool. They're curly. They're not yours. Bah, stomp, stomp. These are my lambs. So we found the mother, the the real biological mother, and we penned her up with her lambs so that she would get acclimated to them. And 219 was very upset. Those were her lambs. She was sure they were her lambs. I had to talk to her, tell her, honey, those are not your lambs. You're still pregnant, and you can't feed these lambs because then there'll be no colostrum for your lambs. I've always sat on a bucket and talked to my sheep like they know what I'm talking about, even though I mean, they probably don't, but it makes me feel better when we have a conversation about what needs to happen. And so it was very, very cold. I walked into the house to get warm for a minute, have, a couple sips of tea before I headed back to the barn. I got back there about 15 minutes later. 219 had lambed another set of twins, her own, had them cleaned off, up, and nursing, and was standing in her corner looking at me like, take these away, why don't ya? So she showed me when I wouldn't let her have her Leicester lambs, she had her own lambs and raised them. She, in the past, would raise up to 5 abandoned lambs. She always had her own set of twins, but she would always also take over any other lambs that nobody wanted. So one year she had her set of twin Cheviots. She had one Leicester Longwool that was much larger than the others. I think he was about 16 pounds when he was born. And then she had a pair of Shetland twins, whose mother walked away and we couldn't find her. So 219 just raised all 5 of them. And it was very comical to watch her walking across the hillside with this gangly bunch of lambs. She had one big one, 2 medium ones, 2 little ones, and she would stop every so often to let the little ones catch up because the Shetlands were so much smaller than the big ones that she would make sure that they were coming along with them. And she was just the best sheep in the world. If I could have a flock of 219s, the world would be a much better place. So the next one up was just a beautiful photo that Scooter took at some point in the past of the light filtering through the window onto one of my Cheviots. And I really, really loved that photo, so I had to stick that one in there. And the photo after that is a new ewe that we purchased one year at Worcester. And she was a show sheep, so you can see she's a very large sheep. She makes very large lambs, and she's almost as big as Big Boy is. So that's good for increasing the size of our flock because, as we talked about earlier, the North Country Cheviots are supposed to be a little bit bigger than the others. The photo after that is my girl, Mrs. Tubbs, and she had been attacked by dogs when I had first taken over the flock, and we had 66 sheep torn up by the German Shepherd and German police that lived next door. And we managed to save them all. My mother was a professor of nursing, so we gave them pain medicines, and we stitched up their wounds, and we got everybody put back together. And Mrs. Tubbs had a lot of damage to a couple of her legs, and they were all very close to lambing when the attack happened. and she lambed about 2 weeks afterwards, and she still wasn't healthy enough to get up on her feet without our assistance. Of course, we went down and we did physical therapy every day because, that's what we do. Couldn't lose any of them, had to help them recover. And so Mrs. Tubbs had triplets and was unable to stand. So she figured out a way to just kick a leg up in the air while she was laying there with her lambs. And anybody who needed to nurse, she fed them sort of like a mother dog would. She just kicked a leg up in the air, and they got under there, and they grew, and they were strong and healthy. And we were glad that we were able to save all 4 of them. And then once she was able to get up and go, she would take her lambs and go outside, and they'd go a little bit further every day, as she got stronger and healthier. And every year after that dog attack, she had triplets every year. And I was just so grateful and felt so blessed that we were able to save her. And we named her Mrs. Tubbs after the accident because she was carrying triplets. So when she was laying there recovering, she looked like she was like tubby. She was like 3 sheep wide. So she became Mrs. Tubbs. She was delightful. So the next picture is a picture of Drew and I feeding his twins, Itsy and Bitsy, which were the foundation of his flock. And I just think he's absolutely adorable in his little bucket hat, chasing his lambs around the yard and feeding them their bottles. So I had to tuck that one in there just to embarrass my baby, my 30-year-old baby. So that one's really, really cute. And then the last of the photos is our most recent show sheep. Drew raised her. She was a lamb that he bred. Big Boy is her father. And she became a show sheep for a young man in 4-H as his breeding sheep project. And her name is Darla. And she's a thickums. She's very, very well fed, and very muscular, and everything I love in a Cheviot. Melinda would probably say that she's too chubby, but I just think she's gorgeous. So I thought you might like seeing a picture of Darla. Darla now is back at the farm and is best friends with Barbara and the Girly Pop Girls that Drew picked up from his friends. He's picked up 5 new replacement ewes. So next up, I just wanted to mention I am chugging along on the Carbeth. I am on Sleeve Island, and that is the longest slog of this sweater. The Carbeth is knit from the bottom up. So you knit the body of the sweater, and then you stop, and then you knit the sleeves, and then you join all of them, and then you do the decreases up to the neck. And this is the part that goes fast. The body takes forever, the sleeves take forever, but then once you join everything together and start trucking along, then it goes fast. So I'm not there yet. And honestly, with everything else I've gotten done this week, I haven't had a ton of time to do the Carbeth, but I love visiting it and doing a couple of rows on the sleeves when I get a minute. This week was all about sewing. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of sewing. I got my projects moving along, and it was one of those weeks where I got up early, and I was so excited to go down to my beautiful new studio that I finally got the way I wanted it, that I was just making all the things. So this is going to be quite a bit of a list, but I finished the log cabin tree skirt. I swore that I was not going to take our Christmas tree down until that tree skirt was photographed under the tree. And I wasn't going to cheat and do it before it was finished. I was going to finish it so that it could get packed away with the tree and the ornaments for next year. So that was very exciting. I finished it. I got a picture of it. I got it under the tree. It looks as good as I thought it would. I was so excited. So that just led right into, that was Quilt As You Go. So then I decided I would piece the featherweight cover, the dust cover for my featherweight, since my featherweight got its own table in the new studio, I made it a dust cover, and I machine quilted it on my Cafe 475 Bernina, so that it will be really, really cute. It matches all the things because it all has to be matchy-matchy. Coordinates, really. Not really matchy, but coordinates. So that got finished. And then I made a quick little project bag from a line, I think it's Riley Blake, called She Who Sews. And it has like vintagey looking panels in it. And actually, when I showed this to John, he's like, "What's that?" I said, "That's a project bag. It has a double zipper at the top, so you can zip it both directions, which I love." So I got that finished, and that kind of led into my Valentine's Day binge. So I did two small, well, one pretty big heart wall hanging, and then a smaller heart wall hanging, and those actually went day before yesterday to the polka dot pin cushion to Deb to be machine quilted with the two thimbleberries tops that I finished last week. So those all went. I also did a teeny tiny little wall quilt that hangs in a little clippity-doo on the wall as soon as I get the binding on. I haven't done the binding yet, but I did the machine quilting on this teeny tiny little camper wall hanging that I think is going to be absolutely adorable in the sunroom this summer. It'll match the rug and the IKEA covers for the furniture. I just think it's going to be it's just really cute. I loved it. It was one of the minis that I got from the Loopy U when they used to have quilting supplies too before the sale to the new owner. Maybe they still do, but back then they had all of these cute little mini quilts, and I picked it up there the first time I was in Colorado, which would have been 2019 for the Shacked 50th anniversary homecoming. So it was kind of fun to finish that one up too. And I just have to put the binding on and then it's all done. But the biggest thing in my sewing world this week was finishing the reorganization of my studio. I am so excited to have it finally done, or done-ish. You know, nothing is ever completely done, but everything is organized, everything is put away, everything is inventoried. Like, I was able to finish all these projects this week because I decided I wanted to do the Valentine-themed projects that were sitting in my stash and in my UFO bins. And I was able to go through my inventory and find out exactly which bin they were in, exactly which closet they were in, exactly which cupboard they were in, whatever. I could just go right through the inventory, pick out the one I wanted, and go and take it out of that bin from that closet and go right to work. There's no digging. There's no trying to remember where I put it. There's no thinking, is that one blue? Like, nothing. You know, it's always in the bin with the blue lid, but no lids have a blue. No tubs have a blue lid. You can't find any tubs with a blue lid. And then you finally find the project, and it's in a red tub that there's nothing blue about it. It's just very frustrating. So I'm very excited to have all the inventorying done. I have two china closets in my studio space. They are in the photos as well. One of them was my grandmother's. It is not completely organized yet. I have stuffed a couple of things in there that need to have the binding put on them, and then after they're done, I'm going to pull some of my fabrics that are in tubs in storage out and put them in that cupboard all pretty and arranged and inventoried so I know where they are. And the other one came from the farm. It was always in the basement in the farm when I was little. So when I moved up here, I brought it with me. It has two glass front doors and two wooden bottom doors. So I can have display at the top and things hidden at the bottom. So I kind of love that too. The bookcase came from my childhood bedroom. And now all of my knitting, spinning, quilting, fabric, stitch dictionaries, all of them are together in one place. I was also able to pull all of my individual patterns and put them in page protectors in binders and then organize them by either designer or holiday. If one binder is holidays, one binder is designers. So that was amazing. So now if I decide I want to make Rosebud Waltz by Corey Yoder, I can go to my designer binder, go to Y for Yoder, and pull out the Rosebud Waltz quilt pattern. This is also a wonderful thing because with all of those inventoried, I can stop buying multiples of the same pattern. Let me just tell you, I want to make Rosebud Waltz so badly that I think I own 3 patterns. I just keep buying the same ones because I love it and I need to make this. So that's probably coming up soon. Because once I saw it again, of course, I wanted to do it. So I'm very, very excited. I cannot stress enough how much the Just Get It Done Quilts channel, Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts, and her 2025 Declutter Challenge, 2024, 2023, all of her declutter challenges have really helped me to get my you know what together, get my stuff organized, get rid of stuff I'm not going to use. I have needlepoint kits up on eBay. I'm going to put some more patterns and fabrics and kits on eBay, stuff I'm never going to use, but for some reason I have to keep them because they're pretty and I own them. But not anymore because Karen Brown has kind of given me her blessing to move along the stuff that I don't love. And that's just been a game changer for me. So if even if I don't do it exactly the way Karen does it, it's really been a big help. And I've gotten everything organized to the point now that next year when it's time to do the declutter challenge, I'll be able to go through things much easier and declutter some more stuff. Just purge. And there's a lot of things I didn't realize were out of print or limited edition or collectible or whatever. And like some of my fabrics that I don't love are actually worth kind of a lot of money. So, I mean, that's something to look at. I'm kind of wondering if some of my old yarns are worth, probably not. Forget it. So, the only other thing I want to talk about is in season right now, comfort food. So I've gotten my sourdough starter back up and running, and I made the most delicious, wonderful sourdough pancakes, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it's from King Arthur Flour. It's one of their recipes, and it's just using the discard from when you feed your sourdough. There's always some discard. You can throw it away or you can use it to make other things. So one of their recipes for sourdough discard was pancakes. And I thought, I haven't had pancakes in years. Um, they're always just so stodgy, so thick and dense. And these were not. Um, they were actually like bubbly and airy. Um, they had the most delightful texture, and they didn't just soak up all of the maple syrup until they were just soggy gloppy. They maintained their body. They coated in the maple syrup. Oh my God, they were so good. Literally, go make these like right now. Like as soon as we're done here, go make yourself some sourdough pancakes. You will not regret it. I also made some pull apart homemade garlic and herb buns. And I made my killer meatloaf with mashed potatoes. John, I don't think you can see him just like nodding his head violently, but he's always been a big fan of my meatloaf. My meatloaf is extra good. And then, it was like -15 here, so I made a big pot of chicken noodle soup. And that's what I made the garlic pull apart buns with, so that we could have some fresh homemade bread with our chicken noodle soup, and they were so good. So even if nothing's really in season right now, I feel like comfort food is in season. I'm thinking this week I'm probably gonna make my orange vanilla pound cake because strawberries are starting to hit the store from Florida, and I really, really love it. It'll be a little bit of a taste of springtime, even if it's just gray January. But I'm really excited to make that too because I just signed up for a thing here called the Modern Milkman, where the milkman comes and delivers to your house like they used to, and the prices are the same as the grocery store. So it's kind of like Instacart, but straight from the farm. So if you have the Modern Milkman where you are, like check it out. I've got buttermilk coming so I can make more pancakes. I've got heavy cream coming so that I can make whipped cream for that pound cake with the strawberries. And then some fresh A2 milk, which is usually able to be tolerated by people who are lactose intolerant because it's kind of a different chemical makeup. And then a dozen of eggs from a local farm as well. So that will all be delivered right to my door, and you can order the cutest little metal milkman box like used to be on the porch. So I haven't done that yet, but you can if you want to. And I'm probably gonna ask for that maybe for Valentine's Day, because I'm weird and I would like to have a milk box. So on down the road, today is the Rust Belt Fiber Shed Symposium in Cleveland at 78th Street Studios. I will be there. Melinda of Bossmere Shearing will be shearing there, and there will be several other vendors. The symposium is in the morning with the speakers, and then the market is in the afternoon, and the market is open to the public from 2 to 4 p.m. If you are watching this when it launches and you're in the Cleveland area, come see me at 78th Street Studios between 2 and 4 p.m. because I will be there and I will have all of this goodness with me. So that I'm very excited about. I just did a Zoom with all the other vendors for Nash Yarn Fest, and it is looking unbelievable. There are almost 100 vendors now. Everything with Arnie and Carlos is sold out. The preview night launch party is sold out, and they have over 1,000 tickets sold for the day of, and it's just going to be epic. So many good things happening. Really excited to go to Nashville. I'm going to Peg Leg Porker. That's where you'll find me. I may eat there every night. I don't know, because Carrie Brindle he's my guy, and I just absolutely love his barbecue. So I'm going to Peg Leg Porker and putting down roots. Then after that, we have Maryland Sheep and Wool and the Great Lakes Fiber Festival. I'm not going to Estes Park this year, so I will miss you in Colorado. But I hope to have a couple of other things coming up. Also, if you are in Texas, in July, I am teaching at the Contemporary Handweavers Guild of Houston. So come see me there. I believe that is going to be open to the public once the period for the guild members is over. You can also just join the guild and sign up there. So come see me in Houston. That's going to be amazing as well. Got a couple other things coming down the pike. Just signed a couple of contracts. Can't really talk about it yet, but we've got some things coming up in June, some things coming up in August, and some things coming up in September and October. So as we move through the season, I'll be able to tell you more about that stuff, but I can't talk about it until the official announcement is made. So you'll just have to wait and see. And the last thing I want to tell you about is I made something cool to tuck into all of the orders that come in on the website. And they are these adorable little thank you cards. And I think you could actually frame this if you wanted to. It's photos of the farm and several of my favorite sheep. And then on the back, it has our logo and it says, thank you very much. Um, because we do love all of our customers and we're so glad. We're so glad to be able to do what we love and raise our sheep and talk to you and play with some wonderful yarn. So next week is the first week of February, which means we'll have a new breed study for our anything along. So next month is going to be Jacob sheep. Remember the Jacob sheep. We will talk all about them. And if you are into doing our anything along, we have several options on the website at therossfarm.com for Jacob products that you can pick up to knit, crochet, spin, weave, felt, macrame, nalband, whatever it is you do, you can do it with the Jacob wool. And again, if you already have Jacob wool, feel free to use that. If you have a local purveyor of Jacob wool, that's great too. Rising tide raises all boats, and we are just happy to have folks using Jacob wool and supporting Jacob farmers no matter where they are. So don't feel like you have to use our product to participate in our anything along. You can use any kind of Jacob from any farm that is local to you. I know Linda Barkman has one down um, in Georgia. There's a couple good ones up in Michigan. There's Jacob sheep everywhere. So if you don't want to order off the website from our flock, please support one of our other friend and fellow Jacob producers where you are, knit local. So anyways, thanks so much for stopping by. Again, please make sure to like, comment, and definitely subscribe. Right now, we are at about 53% of our viewers are not subscribers, and it would really mean a lot to us if you would subscribe and share the podcast, vlog, whatever you want to call it, with your friends and fiber neighbors. And until next week, when we kick off February with our study of Jacob sheep, I am Amy from the Ross Farm, and this was Sheep and Wool School, and we'll see you next time. Bye.